Welcome to yet another Beyond the Blue chat. I am very thrilled to have with me today Tatyana Dias, Dr. Tatyana Dias. It is an absolute pleasure. Welcome, Tatyana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so just a little bit about Tatyana. Tatyana started the Veruschka Foundation in memory of her sister Veruschka. She was intrigued by how her sister's brain worked differently to hers. And so in seeing this and in doing this, she decided that she wanted to become a scientist and find a cure for autism. Equipped with a degree in life science and biochemistry from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, she went on to pursue a master's by research in life science and a PhD in neurobiology from the University of Edinburgh, UK. Following which, she did her postdoctoral research at the University of Cambridge, modeling Down syndrome in a dish using human cortical neurons from patients derived induced pluripotent stem cells. That sounds very complex, Tatyana, but extremely, extremely important. And she really wanted to make a difference in the now of lives of individuals with developmental disabilities. So she volunteered with National Autistic Society UK, where she spent her weekends at a recreation center for autistic adults, which was an extremely heartwarming and self-fulfilling experience for her. Tatyana wanted to take Veruschka away from India, but she unexpectedly passed away. And so after more than a decade, Tatyana returned to India, and in keeping with her academic background, she did a short stint as a visiting research fellow at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai. But she knew that the only way she could keep Veruschka alive was to help her tribe and their families. And so, giving up a very promising scientific career, she set up Veruschka Foundation along with her family, which strives to accept, celebrate, and empower individuals with developmental disabilities. Tatyana, I am so amazed and inspired by what you have done. It's really amazing. And to think that it was born out of, Veruschka Foundation was born out of a tragedy, which was the untimely death of your sister. And you've always said that she will always be your inspiration. So can you tell me a little bit about Veruschka and what she was like?
Yeah, so Veruschka was, the light of our lives. She was an incredible individual. The general consensus that we think about in terms of autism, that autistic individuals, if I may put it that way, don't really have, they are not affectionate, they like to spend time on their own. They are sort of, in their own world, and, they are not really as friendly. Veruschka was the total opposite. She was affectionate, she was loving, she was such a big part of our lives that I think losing her was like losing the sun. And that year, I mean, in 2015 was an absolute year of darkness. I think we didn't know what hit us, and it came out of nowhere. I mean, she was unwell for 4 years prior to that, but
Right.
we didn't think that it was going to end up in her not being there.
Right.
And I think it came as a real shock and to the system that we had to find a way to cope.
Right.
She was so bubbly and affectionate, like I said, and she was a foodie.
Okay.
A lot of times with her was spent, in the kitchen, where mom would be cooking food, where mom was trying to pull me into the kitchen, come on, help me do something. And Verushka was always pacing at the back, waiting to eat whatever mommy was cooking. And she was a real foodie, and I think food is just so positive. It brings people together.
Very
And that is sort of what's been kind of the binding force for us when we started off with, and where we ended up. I mean,
right.
as far as we can tell, when Verushka was born, she was what we would say, it was a neurotypical birth.
Okay.
But she developed meningitis
Okay.
when she was 11 days old. And then she had septicemia. And she was diagnosed at the age of 8, actually, that she was autistic. This happened at the Sairam Autism Center at Jaywakil.
Right.
And in those days, it was like autism had just arrived in India sort of a few years prior to that. So it was the
Right.
first time we'd heard that phrase, and first time we sort of, came to know that there was something different with her. We obviously knew she was different. She was non-verbal till the age of 4, but we didn't know what happened. We didn't have a term for it,
Right.
and finally we had a term for it, and this is what it was. So it seems like as though it was, a traumatic brain injury that resulted in autism. It wasn't
Okay.
that, as far as obviously we can sort of trace back to what happened. This is what it was,
Right.
and it was a complete sort of journey of discovery, with Verushka and for my parents. Going on, sort of trying out Sarah's diet, going to this therapist, going to religious healers, going to, pillar to post to try
Right.
and find a cure, naively thinking that there was something like that.
Right.
After some time, obviously, mom and dad, and I think by that point I had grown up as well. We all realized that, there was no such
Oh,
thing as a cure,
right.
not through these means at least. And also going to different doctors, going and sort of, visiting several schools and setups. But what was integral for us was that Verushka was literally like our lifeline. And without her, I think we would have ceased to be who we have become today.
Right.
I think she gave us more than what we gave her, to be very honest. At the very end, I think that's what we realized,
Right.
that we depended on her so much that our identities were linked to her. And she was, she would wake us up in the morning, with a lot of kisses, and especially my father. She was very close to my dad. I used to have a interesting relationship with her, where I used to keep babying her quite a bit.
Okay.
And I famously had a lot of, as a sibling, you're quite protective
Right.
of your sort of your sister.
Yeah.
And I famously had quite heated discussions with therapists and teachers telling me, don't call her baby, and don't do this and don't do that. And I would be like, well, what do you know? You're not living in my house. And she is our baby. She's my
Yeah.
sister. And she was like a child that never grew up.
Right.
And like I said, she was our lifeline. And when she was gone, uh, we had to make sense of the world again. I mean, she made sense to us,
That,
in a very sort of ironic way. She made sense to us.
as you are saying this, I literally have goosebumps because it's so true. I think if I were to uh, relate to my situation, I think my son Veer has changed all of us and has really shaped our identities so that we are who we are. I think because of him. So I can totally
Mm.
understand what you mean when you say that, and it's really quite incredible. Um,
Yeah.
so tell me how did the whole idea of the Veruschka Foundation start? Because it again, I think what you've done, what is really amazing, is you've taken something which is extremely, uh, a negative experience, a tragedy, and you turned it into something so positive. So how did the whole idea start? How were you able to pull yourself out of that grief to create something so beautiful?
I think that was a very difficult phase. 2015, when Verushka passed away, I came down to India. In my professional capacity, actually, I was part of a panel discussion in Mumbai, which discussed the use of stem cells,
Right.
which happened with other senior doctors in the sort of, in that space, telling parents of differently abled individuals not to go in for stem cell therapy. It kind of started from there when I came back home
Right.
for a short while, and we were all trying to make sense of the grief. And to be very honest, I think as a family we never really grieved. I don't think we have grieved
Okay.
properly. And I do think that we do need to take the time out at some point, whenever, I don't know when. It's going to be 6 years this month, actually, since Verushka passed away, but I don't think we've actually fully understood it. Like for me personally, if I thought about her and I thought about her passing away, I think I would cease to breathe.
Right.
So I've just kind of I don't really go to that zone, because then I can't lift myself up and I can't get on with my day or with my life. And
Yes.
for me, on a personal front, it was my me coming back home, and this is something sort of important to mention. And I also mentioned it to Sarthi at this the sibling network, that being a sibling, I never really thought that getting married was one of the things that was on my to-do list, or having a child was on my to-do list, because Verushka was my priority.
Right.
And I wanted to do that with, full sort of heart and soul. But after she passed away and after I came back to India, it was really my then sort of boyfriend and then fiance and then now husband, who was the positivity that helped me personally get out of that depression and out of that grief.
Right.
I had spent 3 months doing a lot of sort of market research, if you want to call it that, in
Okay.
Mumbai. I visited several special schools, several vocational setups. Things had changed since I left in 2005. I left India just before I turned 21, and I came back when I was 31.
Okay.
And things had really changed in terms
Right.
of awareness. Now I think you wouldn't get somebody saying, "Arey wo pagal hai." I think
Exactly.
sort of, yeah, you would
Right.
you would say, okay, this person is different.
Right.
But that pagal hai statement
At
would
least not in
probably
the
not
metro
be true.
cities. I don't think so.
Yeah,
Not in the urban
exactly.
areas. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of we felt that we had to do something to keep her memory alive and to get over the grief. And having a look at what had been going around, not only in the awareness circles but also in terms of what the special schools, and now there were actually some vocational centers catering to adults,
Right.
because for us as a family, and like I mentioned, like I sort of I mentioned to you, I had no plans of coming back to India because
Right.
I was on track to get an academic job. Verushka was, I wanted to take her away from here. I had been volunteering with NAS, and there was so much of opportunity in Britain that I thought this was going to be it for my sister.
Right.
There was going to be an avenue. But after she passed away, I had to rethink all of that. And to be very honest, science did not seem very attractive because I had spent more than a decade studying and hoping that, I would be able to naively find a cure.
Right.
Somewhere down the line, help, my sister and her tribe. But that never really translated. And I kind of felt that science was like a drop in the ocean effect. It was not actually helping me to get that gratification. It may sound very selfish,
Right.
that I
I
wanted
guess
to sort of get that.
it's not actually doing something. I mean, physically
Yes,
to,
yes.
like you say, the now.
Yeah, yeah, the now,
Yeah.
exactly. And so having a look at what was going on, we felt that maybe we should take a step in setting up a foundation, but it shouldn't be the same run of the mill, special school, providing similar services, because a lot of the schools and the setups were already doing an incredible job.
Okay.
But we felt that they were not able to either take it up a notch, and we also felt that they were not able to actually showcase what they were doing.
Right.
Neither was it possible for the individuals to showcase their own talents. So we felt that we needed to build a foundation where it served as a platform where we ran activities sort of every couple of months, where we brought different NGOs, different schools together, where they could showcase their training, and the individuals themselves could showcase their sort of their talents.
Okay.
And that's how we decided that we should start Verushka Foundation. It was the best way for us to get out of the grief. Like dad actually got out of it when we started VF.
Right.
And my mum was, she was still sort of in her job role, and she was still busy working, so that kind of helped her in a way. And I think we all fully got got positive in a way. I don't know whether that's the right way to put it, but I think we were all a little more positive.
Right.
Probably, I would say a couple of years into us starting the foundation, because when we started interacting with other individuals like Verushka and their families like us, I think it helped us to tie the loose ends in some
Right.
way.
Right. That's amazing. So can you tell me about, because I keep seeing amazing posts on, on social media about all the things that you all are doing. So tell
Yeah.
me exactly what the Veruschka Foundation does.
So, like I mentioned, when we started Veruschka Foundation in 2016, we launched it in 2016. We officially became incorporated in 2017. So, just to also say that Veruschka Foundation is actually a Section 8 NGO. We are
Right.
not a public trust or a society.
Okay.
For us, everything is sort of black and white in terms of answering to the ROC
Right.
and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and we are very happy to see that things in terms of NGOs are actually going now finally towards that direction where every NGO has to sign up with the MCA.
Right.
We wanted to do this right from the start, and so for us, we file our compliance every year and etc. And at that time, we felt, we, like I mentioned, we wanted to sort of run these activities and serve as a platform. So
Okay.
we initially started with a cookery competition called the Cook for Change
Right.
challenge, and we tied up with Forum for Autism because we were a new NGO.
Yes.
It was nice that when I did the visits in 2015 and then again in 2016, people knew Verushka. It was nice that my sister was known.
Right.
But obviously, no, other people would not know who we are and who we were, and we thought that for credibility, we should actually, tie up with an NGO. And so we did that with FFA, and that's how we launched Cook for Change. It was hugely successful, and it's a competition basically at the end of the day, where we've had several schools and vocational setups participate in it, where there are sort of trophies and medals and prizes, and they cook the best dish. And we realized a couple of things running Cook for Change. Firstly, that the schools and the setups were doing an incredible job. And secondly, the individuals themselves were actually they were competitive.
Right.
They knew that they were coming there for a competition. Like one of the participants who came for the first Cook for Change, I introduced myself and I said, "Hi, my name is Tatyana and welcome to Cook for Change." And she said, "Hi, my name is Divya and I'm here to win." And
That's
and I was like,
amazing.
"Oh, that totally threw me off. I didn't know what to say. And I was like, oh my gosh, these people have come really prepared. And it was lovely to see them doing, trials of, for the competition before it happened.
Right.
And so the Cook for Change is an activity which we're supposed to run every couple of years. We had a very successful second edition with more entries, and so we had an elimination round, and then we had a finale, and then we had like a wild card entry, sort of Master Chef style,
Right.
for some little bit of drama. And we sort of were supposed to run it last year, but the pandemic had other plans for us. So besides Hope for Change, we've also run an activity called a Stage for Change, where we've leveled the stage between commercial artists and differently abled artists.
Okay.
Where we've had, a beatboxer, we've had a poet, and we've had classical bands from the disability sector, as well as those that are in Western music actually perform on the same stage. Again, we had plans to run our second edition last year, but again, because of the pandemic, we couldn't do that.
Right.
And one of our other activities, we've done a whole load of them, is Growing Change,
Okay.
where we've taught differently abled individuals and their families and the schools how to go from a seed to a plant. And then what do you do with those plants? You can make a smoothie, you can make a salad. It's sort of going towards the lines of gardening is therapeutic,
Right.
which would help with sensory issues that we see in some of our adults, as well as it actually would help in terms of their diet. As a foundation that's dabbling quite a bit in food, we felt that it was necessary to, help the individuals to pick a sort of a healthy and nutritious diet.
Okay.
And we've done a conference, and we've done where we've had 16 speakers from all over the country at St. Xavier's College, my alma mater, and we've had an awareness camp. So the foundation was essentially one where we were running these activities to bring NGOs and individuals together and to make a very pertinent point that if we showcase their abilities, it would be easier for not only awareness, but it would be easier for inclusion. It
Right.
would be easier for acceptance. And it would be easier for us to help them integrate in society by means of them living an independent life,
Right.
whether that's them living in their own flat, whether that's starting a business, whether that is working in the mainstream food industry, whatever it was. We felt that was the way forward.
Right.
And from there, we sort of realized that there was a capacity for skill development, especially in the culinary space, because as a neurobiologist, the brain works on the reward system quite well. If you tell the bachus that, okay, we are going to make a samosa and show you how, let's make it, and at the end of it you're going to get to eat two, not one but two,
Right.
they are motivated to make it.
Of course.
And being foodies, they were all inclined to do it. And so that's how Culinaris, it was a course before. We ran two successful editions in St. Andrews College. We went from 9 students to 22 students. We were featured on the cover page of the Midday, and that was a good thing and a bad thing, because the good thing was the foundation was able to tell parents that there was an avenue for their children.
Right.
Parents realized it was an avenue, but it was a bad thing because I had so many
Yeah.
calls, not
Because,
only
yeah.
from Mumbai, but all across the country, that I didn't know how I was actually going to help everybody.
Right.
And so that's how the course grew out with what we were doing in St. Andrews, and we had to start our own institute. And so to date, we have trained over 100 individuals. We've run two parallel courses in Thane and Vashi, along with collaborators there as well. And we know sort of what works for us. There is a curriculum in place which is specially designed. We work along with our families because we feel that a supporter is required.
Right.
We are not so bold enough to say that our individuals can do A to Z alone. We are not quite there yet. It takes some time to train. We are able to say that probably after 2 to 3 years of training. But in the meantime, we do have a supporter that comes along with them.
Okay.
The reason for that is there's a lot of follow up that happens at home, and it sort of relates to attitudes changing, like shifting attitudes and habits and behaviors of family members at home. Usually, mummy is the one that says, Veer Baba, go make those muffins. And daddy is the one that says, Gopika, why are you making my son work? And so let him just, relax. He doesn't need to work at his age, or it's the opposite way around, And so we
Right.
felt that the family needed to work along with us. Without the
Absolutely.
family, it
Very,
wouldn't happen.
very.
And so that's how we went from, having sort of running these activities to actually being, starting a skill development center and a training institute, to also now recently starting our own employment initiatives. So, like I was saying, we work on sort of three fronts, and also introduced a fourth one very recently in November last year. So, firstly, we work with individuals and their families to achieve independence at home and in their lives. Like, for
Right.
instance, this usually is the case with families where they are able to build a corpus for their child.
Okay.
Where there is that financial stability in a way,
Right.
and so they are very happy for their child to sort of have their own flat, sort of, not really go to work as such, but sort
Right.
of be in their own flat, live independently, but they want their child to be able to cook for themselves.
Right.
uh, then we work on the sort of the second, our second approach is where, we have several different individuals who want to start a bakery business,
Okay.
or a chocolate business, or a food business, and we help them to start or scale their businesses
Okay.
and their business ideas. The third is where we help individuals actually integrate into the mainstream food industry,
Okay.
where these are individuals who are either coming from low income families where they need to contribute to the family income, or it is one where they just want to have an identity. They want to go to work just like you
Right.
and me.
Right.
They don't want to stay at home. They are like, I'm trained. I want to go. I want to
Yeah.
travel independently, and I want to go to work. And then the fourth one, like I said, is where we have started our own employment initiative. And that sort of was born out of the pandemic.
Right.
As an organization, and just like with everybody, we've had to adapt and we've had to pivot. And we've done exactly that. We've moved our skill development to a digital platform, and we've continued to do, our work on that front.
Right.
But what we also sort of thought about is, we had made, we make a promise to the parents that we are going to skill your child. We're going
Okay.
to help you in terms of the future planning.
Right.
Now, and that obviously happens on an individual basis. But with what has happened with the food industry, because of the pandemic, it has had devastating effects.
Right.
We feel that we can't really wait for employers to come back to me. And the conversations I've had with employers pre-pandemic, saying that yes, we can employ your adult, but now I'm sorry, but I've had to close one of my outlets, and rightly so. I
Right.
mean,
Yes.
understandably, it's affected everybody. We felt that we couldn't wait, and we felt that we needed to ensure that there was some security. And more importantly, this is not a feminist comment in any which way, but the food industry is heavily male dominated,
Yes.
and kitchen spaces in Mumbai are quite small.
Right.
I've had conversations with so many chefs to place my students, and they would often, they often tell me, "Ma'am, come and see our kitchen. It's so tiny.
Right.
Now you're going to bring one of your girls. My staff are all boys.
Yeah.
They're going to walk past. It's
Right.
just it gets into the zone of being uncomfortable."
Absolutely.
And also, rightly from the parents' perspective, they are also worried their girl is going to work.
And they're
It's
so much more vulnerable, because of the
absolutely.
condition that they have.
Yes, absolutely. And so for that reason, we thought we needed to, sort of secure the future for our trainees. We needed to ensure that there was long-term sustainability for the foundation in terms of we are helping in terms of the input. We are working on skill development. But what is the output?
Right.
Now with the pandemic, things have changed completely.
Yes.
And the positive side of all of this is everybody had been looking at our pages saying, "Y'all continuously keep posting about food. Can we buy this from you? Can we, can we want to taste that?"
Right.
And I used to always tell them, "No, no, we don't sell anything. Come for one of our classes, and you're more than free to go and eat what all our bachus have made. But
Right.
we don't sell anything." And we said, right, so let's sort of get into that area. So now
Right.
we do gift hampers. We sort of, we had a weekend kitchen, which is now going to become a daily meal box.
Okay.
And we have an entire range of healthy cookies and muffins and cakes, and sort of trying to keep it a little broad so that I can fit the diversity of my of the interests,
Right.
the diverse interests of my trainees,
Right.
to ensure that they are all happy, and just not say I'm going to start a bakery and everyone has to do bakery.
Right. Right.
So we don't mind having sort of a diverse range of products, just so that my trainees are happy. And like I mentioned, we do work as an inclusive team. My bachus can't do everything from start to finish.
Right.
They are excellent choppers, and they can make truffles like no one's business, better than even me. And in fact, to be very honest, me and my husband we started thinking we are going towards getting a complex because they were chopping better than us. We're like, dear God, we never saw that coming.
Right.
So, they're excellent, but they can't. This is being very honest.
Right.
They can't do things from A to Z. We are
Right.
trying to get them to that stage, but
Right.
it takes time.
That's true. Very true. Very true. But that's amazing because, I had only heard of Cook for Change and the
Yeah.
Cookery Institute. I didn't know you did all this. And I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm just completely blown away because I'm just thinking how much you've created from this, and the breadth of things that you're doing is just absolutely incredible. And what is also incredible to me is, from what I have seen, you're pulling in together people. You've got yoga teachers, and you've got your beatboxers, and you've got Rushina Manshaw Girial, who's like one of the best food critics, and you've got master chef people. And they're all like, just coming together and becoming part of Veruschka Foundation, which is incredible. That you pulled together all these people. So how does it work? Do they approach you? Do you approach them? How does it work? How do you manage to attract all this talent?
So I think it sort of is the fact that I think it's it's Veruschka's blessings, and the fact that she loved food, and we decided to pick food as one of our initiatives. I think it's that, and I think it started off with our association with FFA.
Right,
We ran Cook for Change, and it just so happened that I was having a meeting with Parul, and she, just mentioned to me, oh, our brand ambassador is Chef Sanjeev Kapoor.
right.
And to be very honest, I didn't know that before I went in for the meeting. Me and my dad were meeting with her. And I said, sorry, who? And she said, oh, Chef Sanjeev Kapoor. And I said, okay, is it that chap, who used to come on TV? I think my mom used to watch him. And I think it was this alternate universe because I left at a very sort of young age, and my entire youth
Nice.
was spent watching Jamie Oliver and Gordon Ramsay. I had
Right.
forgotten what was happening back then. And she said, yeah, well, he's our brand ambassador. And that's how, we sort of spoke to him. It was with the help of Chitra Iyer, and, we got them on board. And so we had Chef Ranveer Brar, and we've kind of, for Cook for Change, we tend to have these celebrity chefs. So we do not, we sort of don't, we haven't really formally reached out to them. Neither, do there isn't anything in terms of any transactions that are done. It is just the fact that they are committed to supporting the cause,
Right.
and they've gone to the extent of, like, especially with the SK team, they've hired three of my bachus who have been working there. There is one of my bachus is hired by Chef Brar as well. And we've the conversations kind of, the doors opened once I sort of said, one of my students is hired at the SK kitchen. Other chefs were more willing to sort of, take a chance because
Right.
somebody had done it.
Right.
Padma Shri awarded chef has actually taken that chance. His team has been able to do it. So why can't I try that?
Exactly.
And besides that, I think, like I was saying, food is so positive. It brings people together, and I think just bringing smiles on people's faces. People have just been very open, in terms of reaching out to us or us reaching out to them in terms of, whatever help is it that we require. Like with Rushina, for example, it was just the fact that I had been following her from last year.
Right.
Blame it on the pandemic and being heavily pregnant in bed. I kind of was, clicking on Instagram, and I thought, oh dear God, I need to do some work for the foundation page on Instagram. And I happened to come across her profile.
Right.
To be very honest, I didn't know who she was. I just knew that she was, somebody who dabbled in the culinary space. It was only when the mentorship sort of like that sort of conversation happened with her just before it happened. That was when I looked her up, and I was like, oh, that is who.
Yeah, she's big.
Uh, yeah, she's big. Yeah, to be honest, I was never really big with names and things like that. And I now note to self, always check the name before and so I thankfully I did that before my conversation with her, and she was just such a lovely individual. She's given me so many connects, and genuinely wants to help. And I think
Right.
that's what we've seen with chefs and with bakers and with home chefs. I think food is what drives everybody
Very.
in that space, and they are more than willing to help because we are also in that space. So I think that's sort of how that's sort of how it has happened. There has been a sort of a commitment, like especially from Chef Kapoor's team. I have to send one message to Chef Anupa Das or send a message to Aliona Kapoor. And ma'am always responds back saying, okay, what is the help that you need? And they've shown that kind of commitment.
Right.
So, they are committed to the cause. And I think that's helped us to open these doors,
Right.
to show that our students, and obviously it is the talent of our students, we've
Of
been
course.
trying to prove exactly that they are able to, teach you how, they are able to make you a cup of tea or coffee that probably you can't do, as well for yourself.
That is absolutely amazing. This has been such an amazing, amazing, eye-opening, chat for me, because I've learned so much, and I hope that through this chat, people know more about the Veruschka Foundation, and I hope that it really grows onward and upward. Wishing you all the very, very, very best, and thank you so much for taking out the time between Veruschka Foundation and your baby, who's how old now?
He is now 11 months old.
Wow.
He's going to turn one in a short while, and yeah, he's currently my daddy is on duty. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking out the time, Tatyana, and
You're very
all the very,
It's been
very
my
best.
pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.